the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And joining us now here on the Locked On Buckeyes podcast, almost said the wrong name of the podcast there. Almost said my own podcast, but Locked On Buckeyes. It is Aaron Freeman, the host of Locked On Falcons. Aaron, you're coming in after Ross Jackson talked about 4 Saints players. He set the bar pretty high, so I hope you can stick up there with that lofty bar that he set. Aaron, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Glad to be talking with you, Jay.
Yes, sir. Glad to be here with you as well. Kendall Sheffield, we're going to continue our Buckeye road trip around the NFL. Kendall Sheffield, 2019 draft pick in the 4th round of the Atlanta Falcons, played in 16 games his rookie year, played in 13 games last season. Coming off of last season, at the end of last season, how have you assessed him so far at his tenure in Atlanta?
Yeah, his rookie season, he showed some flashes playing primarily as the Falcons' nickel cornerback, and really going into year 2, expectations were that he was going to improve a little bit on that. And, you know, not to sound too harsh, but I don't know if Kendall Sheffield really lived up to those expectations last year. He was dealing with some injuries early in the season that's caused him to miss some games early, sort of was forced into the lineup to be sort of a starter right away at that right cornerback position, and had his ups and downs. And I think the main thing with Kendall Sheffield, we knew when he was coming out of Ohio State, very talented, athletic, you know, checks all the boxes from a trait standpoint that you're looking at the cornerback position. But some of the issues that he struggled with as a rookie, sort of with technical stuff and awareness, you were hoping to see a little bit of improvement there in year 2. You didn't quite see that. And so I think this summer is going to be, you know, kind of a make-break year for him. Now with a new coaching staff coming in, they won't necessarily have the same loyalty to him because they did not draft him as the previous coaching staff. So this is a real opportunity for him to really make a strong first impression and really improve upon that second year that didn't quite live up to expectations in Atlanta last year.
Aaron, you mentioned the word struggles. You mentioned some technical stuff. You mentioned the awareness that maybe he struggled with. As far as the technical side of things, what technical things did he kind of struggle with?
Yeah, the main issue with Kendall Sheffield, I felt, was, you know, footwork stuff, balance stuff, these types of things. He's always been a supreme athlete. And I think a lot of ways he was able to get away with that in college, where he always knew he was one of the top athletes on the field. So he didn't necessarily have to play with the same sort of discipline and technique as other corners. And, you know, when you get to the NFL, you know, you're facing some elite talent. And no offense to Ohio State or Alabama, where he was prior to, you know, they play some great players, but they are not up to the level of NFL players like Michael Thomas and Mike Evans and those types of players in the NFL. And so I think Kendall Sheffield hasn't been able to get away with sort of being as athletic as he has been in previous times in Ohio State. So I think that's really where he needs to improve upon and just play with a little bit more balance, a little bit more intense anticipation, just because you're not just going to be able to, you know, out-athlete all these top-end wide receivers that you're going to face in the NFL.
You mentioned that he played some nickel corner and he played outside. I think it was right corner specifically that you mentioned. Which position do you think fits him the best?
Well, based off of his body of work right now, off of 2 years, you know, for the most part, his rookie season, he was inside, playing that nickel cornerback spot. And last year, he spent predominantly his time outside. And I felt like showed a little bit more flashes as an inside corner than he did as a purely outside guy. So I think maybe that will, you know, potentially moving inside might better suit him from a matchup standpoint, where he doesn't necessarily have to deal with some of those top end outside receivers like a Mike Evans or, you know, any of these guys that you're facing in the NFL. Typically, you know, we know it changes a little bit in today's NFL, but typically for most teams, their best receiver is not playing in the slot. You know, that's usually your second or third best wide receiver. So I think that's probably a better place for Kendall Sheffield moving forward. And I think we'll have to sort of see if this new coaching staff in Atlanta under Arthur Smith and defensive coordinator Dean Pease sees it the same way.
The new coaching staff, the versatility somewhat to play inside, outside, kind of a make or break it year, not just for year 3 with him in the NFL, but also just new coaching staff. They may just get rid of you because you might not fit their scheme. Schematically, do you think him having some time playing inside and outside kind of makes him a better asset or better commodity than somebody else that's one or the other?
Yeah, I think that's going to be something of a feather in his hat this summer when he's competing for a roster spot. So even though I've spent the better part of this conversation questioning, where he could be as an NFL player, I feel like he should be relatively safe because of that versatility, because even in the beginning part of his rookie season, before he was sort of asked to be promoted to that nickel cornerback spot due to injuries and whatnot, he played on special teams and was very effective on special teams. So I think really right now, the main question with Kendall Sheffield is, as a backup, because of that versatility that you're talking about, playing inside or outside, because of that ability on special teams, he's a very valuable backup. It's just really a question, can he be more than that? Can he be a starting nickel in this league? Can he be a starting outside corner in this league? And those are questions he has yet to answer. We've seen the flashes, but you're just not getting the sort of consistency, I think, in part due to those technical concerns that he has shown so far in his NFL career.
Last but not least, what are your personal expectations for Sheffield in the 2021 football season?
Yeah, my expectations is he'll probably be a valuable backup. I know the Falcons' new coaching staff has brought in some players that you would assume, given that they're quote-unquote guys, are going to sort of leapfrog him on the depth chart. Players like Fabian Moreau out of Washington. They drafted a 4th-round cornerback in Darren Hall. The nickel cornerback they had last year in Isaiah Oliver is still in the mix there. So my expectations for Kendall Sheffield this upcoming season, he's going to be more of a 4th corner, maybe the 5th corner on the depth chart. But I still think he can contribute in that way. He'll still probably get some opportunities, as the Falcons have dealt with some injuries these last couple of years at the cornerback position. And, your number is going to get called eventually at some point. And I do expect Kendall Sheffield to be a better option should that happen than, somebody off the street that the Falcons could potentially bring in just because of that experience he has and because of the talent level that he has, that even though, we talk about some of these issues that he's having, because of those athletic traits, he does present more favorable matchups against certain type of wide receivers that he's going to face in the NFL. I know last year when the Falcons played Carolina, they asked him to go toe-to-toe with Robbie Anderson because he was one of the few Falcons cornerbacks on the team that could handle someone like Anderson's deep speed. So he is an asset for the Falcons, and I do think he can provide some valuable depth while also contributing on special teams. And should his number be called, I think he still can be an asset for the Falcons, but just may not necessarily live up to those expectations when the Falcons drafted him, that he could wind up being a long-term starter for them at the cornerback position.
Aaron Freeman, this has been fun, man. If you could let everybody know they can connect with you on social media and also where they can catch your show as well.
Of course, they can find me on Twitter at FalcFans, FalcFans, and of course, hosting every day on the Locked On Falcons podcast, talking Atlanta Falcons football. We got training camp coming up, this week, and so that's going to be the thing that we get everybody geared up for the season starts. I know with college football season right around the corner, this is the most exciting time of the year.
Yes, it is, Aaron Freeman. I really appreciate you coming on Locked On Buckeyes, bringing a lot of insight to Kendall Sheffield. Aaron, I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.